TrashPPL is a zero-waste upcycling facility within a staffing agency within a TV series. The following presentation attempts to describe all possible roles to play and each of their duties. Number 1. Lawyer. Alright man, we're going to need a lawyer because this is like a corporation and there's forms you gotta file for that. I don't know anything about that. Let's throw some money at a lawyer. They don't have to be an actual employee, but we'll tell everybody that they helped us out. Number 2. Entertainment attorney. Alright, well this is a TV show after all, and everybody's going to be on camera. I want to have the license to everyone's speech and everything that happens here, everybody's imagery. I want them to come up with pseudonyms and, so we can use their character royalties and all that. We need an entertainment attorney to write up some contracts that, just like when you're on the set of any other movie, if you improvise in any way, or, like the NFL or like pro wrestlers, you just need to realize that you have a character that you're playing and that you're on a show, and you need to accept that you're on camera all the times and never talk about the cameras or look at them. We need an entertainment attorney to write up a contract that someone signs before they come on. Number 3, accountant. So this is another thing that we can outsource at first, but eventually we need an in-house accountant. So if this thing is happening, I got the startup capital and I already spent a ton of money on the first lawyer and the entertainment attorney, but I'm going to make the accountant sign the form, and I'm going to film this accountant trying to look at all these numbers and prepare for taxes for next year and develop a system for future employees. And we're going to start selling stuff, so we are going to need an in-house accountant to be on top of all these numbers and being able to keep them organized in a way that a third party can check out if we get audited, and for our investors to know exactly where we're spending our money. And number 4, sales. Sales is the heart of this business because we have to generate income. And I've identified many areas that we're going to pull from with our products and our people. In the early stages, we have an in-house accountant, and the salesperson has to sell the accountant. It's like a staffing agency, okay? The accountant and the first 2 lawyers helped us out big time, and we want to make some referrals and see if we can get them any work. At first, it's just going to be for the love, just to get our name out there. Eventually, we're going to have referral fees. Eventually, we're going to go full staffing model, and we're going to lease out our own employees at a better rate, and everybody makes more money. At the heart of it, I want to think about recycling people. I want to hire everybody at an entry level if possible. We all need opportunity if we're going to switch. Perhaps you've been working the same job for a while and you're thinking about trying anything else. I want entry-level everything possible because this place is going to make us rethink the way we look for work. You're going to have to come through us first. Once you're on board, we have footage, we're developing your character, developing your skills. You see, currently staffing agencies and temp agencies, they don't really invest in your skills and make you grow. I want to actively empower people and inspire them to be better at what they already are, and then place them in higher paying jobs with a good referral. And through the TV show, some of these people could make a lot of money moving on to, if they're good on camera, you know what I mean? So I'm going to have a camera. I'm going to hire a salesperson. They're going to have to sign the release form that the entertainment attorney, because they have to know that they're playing a role on a TV show. I have a camera, and I'm trying to film the salesperson trying to sell the accountant and the other 2 lawyers. The salesperson is later going to handle waste contracts, going to handle fertilizer contracts, art sales. At first, the sales is going to have to handle their own marketing when we're in the early stages. But when we expand, number 5, marketing. So if the salesperson isn't going to know who to call, we need a dedicated analyst to get the exact numbers and try to work on these contracts and go out there and get drinks with these people and try to set the salesperson up and give the salesperson the right info to be able to do their job effectively. Like I said, there's many areas that we're going to pull in income, okay? We're going to get motivational speaking fees for some of these people if they're good on camera. The marketing team has to figure out how to capitalize that, and the salesperson has to execute on that. In the early stages, the salesperson, maybe they're entry level. They never worked for a talent agency before. So the marketing team does the research to try to figure out how the salesperson is supposed to sell the accountant and, in turn, sell the marketing rep. And then I'm going to get another salesperson. They're going to try to sell each other. We're trying to get everybody on staff a better job. At first, it's just going to be for promotional purposes, but eventually it'll be for a referral fee. Eventually, we will lease out our own employees. Eventually, we're going to disrupt the entire system and change the way hiring is done and change the way that we look for jobs. Everyone's going to have to come through us first. If you ever need a new career path, you want to drop everything, we're the place to go. We're going to compete with staffing agencies, talent scouts, temp agencies. In a way, we're going to compete with trade schools. Number 6, audiovisual tech. Have you ever wanted to make movies? Have you ever wanted to be a cinematographer? Everybody has their favorite movie. You ever wonder how you do that, We all have cameras. We have access to phones, Sometimes you have ideas for creative projects, sometimes you don't. Here, I want to hire an entry-level, just somebody to hold the camera, do a few light edits, and help upload the videos. I'm going to be able to be the only camera person during the early stages, but we need to hire someone that I can give the camera to. We can have 2 angles for a while before I eventually hire another camera person. The AV person, all-encompassing at first, and I'm going to have to help. We're going to film everybody's interaction, sometimes with tripods. If possible, I might want to give these people lavalier microphones. Everything that they do is filmed. And in the middle of the night, when they're sleeping, I want to have somebody digging through this footage and editing something that is substantial, something that is fun to watch, something that makes these people look good. It's a form of entertainment, but it's also a little bit educational. Also, it's a promotional tool for us to develop these characters and to be able to sell them and get them better placements in other situations. Number 7, IT tech. All right, we're already at 7 employees, and things are going to get really complicated soon, so we need to bring in a dedicated IT tech because we're going to have a few systems worked out. The accountant is going to need some sort of app to help them do what they do. And I would like some rudimentary proprietary software developed so that when we scale out and we expand, we can have a fully customized system because it's going to need to do things that might not be available in the products out there. And besides, in essence, a bare bones accounting app is very easy to make, and this would be great at the interview. You get some college student who just needs some entry-level programming thing and they don't even have a resume. I want to hire people who are working from nothing because I want to train them and empower them and sell them for double. But we're going to get this during the interview. We could ask this person, all right, develop accounting app. And they'll come up with something rudimentary, bare bones. It's all right. Then they'll develop an app to help out the marketing because we need to have some data scraping going on. We're going to have an app for pretty much every single employee to support them. each new programmer is going to make these things. They get to put that on their resume. It helps our sales staff when we try to get them better jobs. Eventually, we will have an in-house app that not only supports each employee on what it is they want to do, but it keeps track of everything and everyone. And some aspects will be automated, although humans will still be in control. I just want to try to make things easier. And when this thing scales out, I'm going to tell you more about our database. So we need an IT tech once we approach 10 employees, because the AV staff is going to have so much footage, and we need to have storage solutions. We need to have an archive system. If an AV person had access to an IT person, it would help us have an on-staff organized solution so future employees would be able to, come in seamlessly in and out with it. If you leave all that up to one person, it could be a mess, and it could be really hard for the next person to decode. Number 8, janitor. All right, so we want to sell this person as a custodial expert. Being a janitor is something that you think almost anybody can do. You come in, and you just keep the place clean, take out the trash, right? Well, you know what? We're going to completely rethink everything we think we know about trash. It's going to become a resource. Trash, instead of being a nuisance, is going to be something that we want. And the lead janitor is eventually going to play a low-key big role, but no one around this person is going to realize how important they are. It's going to be good for somebody who's shy, someone who doesn't want to talk on camera so much. They can if they want to, but the janitor is going to have access to everything, but they're not going to be able to control anything except for the trash. Someone needs to have control of the trash. And as this thing scales out, the lead janitor is going to be the person who has the final say on what system we use to collect and harness all of the waste that comes from these people. Not only food waste and paper waste, but eventually their biological waste. Of course, we will have engineers and people working on this, but the janitor gets to have final say on the flow, the logistical flow of these things. Someone who came up just to clean up some trash is going to become a custodial management materials expert, and we're going to hire them for $15 an hour, and when they leave, they're going to be making $30 an hour. And that's the success story of us recycling people, giving people a whole new chance. Trash people, people who you thought had nothing left for them, they're going to make a comeback. And if you want to make a comeback, you're going to have to come through us. Number 9, delivery driver. So I've done a lot of delivering Chinese food, delivering Italian food. I did a little bit of DoorDash too. When you're in an office setting, it's very disruptive to have everybody ordering from different places, and you have to go out. You have to go up to the main desk. It can be really tough. I don't want people from the outside coming on site too often, because it makes the cameras more complicated. We can't use the footage if it's somebody who's not on contract. And besides, when we scale out, we're going to need an in-house delivery service for some of the sales and for some of our resources. At first, I want to get somebody on staff who just runs out and gets coffee or whatever. Let's say there's somebody out there who they just think that they have no skills, but they got a car and they really need a job. Hey, this can be a good way to find out if they're trustworthy and smart. You tell them, I want a medium iced coffee with cream and sugar. I want a large hot coffee with caramel and cream, no sugar. And if they get that right, then the salesperson with confidence can start calling these pizza shops and be like, hey, we got somebody who's really good, and we could get this person a steady job somewhere. Like I said, if you want to make it in this world, you got to come through us first. Number 10, engineer. So we need somebody who can think out of the box and just look at whatever they have and make the most of it. Make something useful, a problem solver. Someone who's resourceful. You ever hear about that boy in Africa who built his own windmill out of some old science books? And the interview process is going to be tough because we got to find someone who's creative but also very logical. You got to get a little bit of the best of both with this kind of engineer. You need a creative engineer. Later on down the line, the engineers are not going to have to be creative because we're going to have a system in place for modular building materials. That's the goal. The engineers are eventually going to have to figure out how to take the trash that we have and convert it to modular building materials. Our marketing team is going to figure out how to sell it, and our sales staff is going to sell it. And our sales staff is going to be trying to sell the engineers and trying to get them a better job. We're going to hire engineers straight out of college, maybe even straight out of high school. They don't even need a degree if they get the interview. If they show that they have what it takes to take nothing and turn it into something. 11. Artist. Having a visual artist or a structural artist, any artist at all, is kind of like they have the same role as the engineer, but it's the other side of the coin. You have to create value out of something that was assumed to be valueless. We're going to rethink everything that we know about trash. Trash is a resource. Whatever the engineers can and can't do with what they have, there's more than enough trash for everyone. And I want to get an artist involved who can come up with a system to look at what it is that we have coming in and just try to turn it into something. Doesn't matter what it is. Art is a $60 billion a year industry. And our sales staff is going to have to figure out how to sell these pieces and move them. Eventually, when we scale out, we're going to have a lot of artists on staff. And once in a while, they're going to make things that pay for the whole place. But all this is on film, too. Everybody signed the contract. They're all actors on a set. Not only are we going to be selling the art, but we're going to be selling the artists. So we get people with not much experience, but in the interview, you can tell they can do it. We give them a chance. We develop their character over time. And before you know it, they're getting a really serious job somewhere else. That's what we want to do. We want to recycle people. And in the meantime, we're getting some trash out of the ocean. Number 12, the chemist. So I want to get someone who's destined to be a chemical engineer or an inventor. This might be the only role that might require a college degree, and we might have to start off paying more than $15 an hour. I want someone who's really good. I want someone who wants to save the world. I want someone to analyze what we got coming in with this trash juice. I want someone to come up with methods of making the place smell better. I want them to come up with better ways to clean these things, better ways to filter the water. I want them to come up with ways to collect our human waste and convert it to fertilizer. I want the chemist to be in a position of power where they can override or veto anyone else for any reason. The chemist is going to be the smartest person on site. And we're going to have to be really selective and hire somebody maybe from out of state and pay them as much as a lawyer, maybe more. The chemist is going to be free to conduct their own experiments, to try to figure out what can they isolate, what can they make, what can they blend together. Perhaps the marketing can try to figure out how to sell nitrates and phosphorus. Perhaps the chemist can help us come up with safety guidelines that we must follow in-house. I want to go beyond the government regulations for safety and have in-house regulations that make this place really safe. The chemist is going to help us make breakthroughs that change the world. Number 13, philosopher. by now things are getting really complicated. We're up to our 13th employee. Do you know anyone who has a philosophy degree? But do they work as a philosopher? Can you imagine someone playing video games on their mom's couch, and then their mom finds a newspaper, a classified ad saying philosopher wanted? Imagine that scenario. I want to hire somebody straight out of college, someone inquisitive, someone who asks too many questions, someone who's insufferable to be around, someone who thinks too much. And I want to make this person watch a bunch of videos about zero waste and start preaching the gospel. They can preach about whatever they want to, but they're on camera, and if we get anything useful, we'll use it. And if they do well, our sales staff will try to get them contracts for speaking fees, which is a $1.9 billion industry. And it could help if we could get some people and work on their public speaking skills, get them to watch the tapes every day of their own footage, and they develop themselves. They become better at what they really are. And we can get some people out there making TED Talks. I'll have to come up with ways to direct this person to occasionally give presentations to our whole staff. We need the staff to constantly be reminded why we are doing this, why we need to get the plastic out of the ocean, and also who we are and where we're going in life. Everything we think of about getting a job and how people are hired, rethinking human capital.
Number 14. Accountant for the accountant.
So by now things are getting really complicated. We got several revenue streams. Not only are we recycling, we're making modular building materials, we're making art, we're making fertilizer. We're also pursuing character licensing. We're getting Google AdSense fees. We're getting motivational speaking fees. We need an accountant for the accountant. And when the sales staff successfully sells an accountant, the other one gets to move up. So they're moving up within the company. And then we get yet another entry-level accountant. It's fine if this person doesn't even have a degree. They just have to think that they want to do accountant. And once we get them in, we get them working with these actual numbers, and they're held accountable because there's more than one of them that has to verify these numbers and make sure we don't screw this up.
Number 15. Sales.
We're going to need more than one salesperson on staff because by now we are selling so many things. Trying to. And one person all day, it's not going to cut it. We need two. Because every single day, the artist and the engineer, they might be making more and more. We might be bringing in more and more raw materials. We're not going to be able to handle all the trash that we produce, all the trash that we're bringing in. We might need to pass some of it off to locals somehow in the form of raw materials. We might have to hoard some trash so in the future, some of our innovations can figure out how to do some more with this. We're going to need 2, 3, 4, 5. Sales is the heart of this operation because it needs to generate income. So I would say not only 15, but
Number 16. Sales.
so I would add a third person for sales. And then you can start coming up with games for the salespeople to compete with each other, and then you can have employee of the month or something like that, whatever. Sales, I would expect the sales to not want to leave the company because maybe they'll make commissions or something, and once they get a taste of that, they're not going to want to leave.
Number 17. Innovation.
Innovation is kind of like a wing of the marketing department. Either we upgrade the marketing person, or if we find a philosopher who kind of has interest in business, then instead we bring them into innovation, which is basically, instead of analytics kind of marketing, we want someone who steps back and tries to dream and think about what the future is going to look like. 6 parents per child, synthetic food, robots doing our jobs. We're mining our own cryptocurrencies with a wristband or something. The innovator is going to hang out with the philosopher, and we're going to film the two of them just talking with each other about whatever. The philosopher doesn't have to innovate, but the innovator must also be a philosopher.
Number 18. Cinematographer.
By now, the AV tech must be overworked because there's too many characters involved. There's so much footage, and they have to edit all this together in the middle of the night before the morning to get a new show out every single day. By now, with this many characters, you start going to having shows within the show. And as these characters develop, you might see potential for shows within the show. The cinematographer, we're going to upgrade whoever the AV tech, whoever's been controlling all of this for a whole time. The cinematographer is the person who's in control of how things are going to film, how they're going to look, how the final edits are going to work out. The AV tech is going to do the work.
Number 19. Camera operator.
By now, the AV tech is definitely overworked, and we need to have a dedicated camera operator. I mean, we're going to have tripods, we're going to have security cams, we're going to have maybe lavaliers on everybody, but at this point, we need a dedicated person walking around with a camera, and that footage that they collect all day, that's just one of the many streams that we're going to edit from in the middle of the night.
Number 20. Editor.
We're going to need a dedicated video editor at this point. Someone where when it's time for everybody to go home, someone fresh comes in and has to deal with all of this footage. Perhaps the other AV tech or the cinematographer will have ideas. They'll be like, hey, today this thing happened at this time, or this thing happened at this time. By now, there's so much footage to work with that it would be good to have multiple people making edits for content and their own material to put out. So by now, our AV staff is 4 people. 6, 18, 19, 20. And this could grow because this is a show. And the show is going to be necessary to get people to become aware. It's even better than having advertising. We're building our own ecosphere and our own media. And this is going to be really important as we scale up.
21. Programmer.
The IT tech is definitely going to need a dedicated programmer at this point. Maybe they'll upgrade, maybe not. But at this point, we're going to need to have a separate person maintaining the network and the database, and another person controlling how we access the database and how these apps are going, because we need to have somebody trying to make apps that support every other role. Every other role is going to need something. And I want it to be done in-house, so when we scale out, all of this stuff can be integrated and automate a lot of tasks that would otherwise be consuming. We're going to have a lot of trash to deal with, so we need to make this thing as efficient as possible.
22. Supply manager.
This position, I want to upgrade the janitor and then hire a new janitor. The janitor is the only person who knows what's going on at this point. The janitor has access to everyone and will probably know more about what's really going on in the macro sense. The supply manager is going to be the end-all be-all of what goes where and how much of this do we have and how much of this do we need, where everything's going, how much of it we have. It's going to be a very stressful job. It's going to have a lot of responsibility. But a really good janitor who knows how everything works is going to be perfect for this because they already know everything. They're going to have a system for it. This person is naturally like that. But this is something that will definitely lead to a better job. The artists and the engineers, even the chemists, these people are going to have to work with the supply manager. There's going to be a little bit of feedback The engineers might say, hey, we need more wood. Hey, we need more metals. The artists might say, hey, we need more blue stuff, less red stuff. Hey, we need more green stuff. The supply manager is going to be able to know, hey, we have too much of this, not enough of this. And then there's a feedback loop with the drivers. That brings us to
Number 23. Collector.
we need a dedicated trash collector now because we've been sending the delivery driver out there. We've been using in-house trash combined with the delivery driver because the sales staff can go find waste management contracts. So from some office buildings, maybe even some households, we send our delivery driver over once in a while to grab a few bags or maybe a couch. Who knows? But we're going to have a second driver. This one specifically for trash. And then the other driver can be specifically for the things that we need, our supplies, our food. And the supply manager is going to be the boss of both of these people, both of these roles. The supply manager is going to be a very stressful position.
24. Engineer. 25. Engineer.
That's right, we got to triple the amount of engineers. Engineering is the heart of this thing, okay? Like, I want to take all this waste, stuff that we thought was waste, and I want to see it as a resource. And we're going to convert it to things that we can use. Modular building materials. I want to come up with ways to collect rainwater and filter it and have clean water. I want to come up with ways to harness our human waste and convert it to fertilizer or convert it to anything. I want to come up with ways to empower the artists with new tools and modular base materials. I want to build houses. I want to prevent trash from getting in the ocean, and I want to reconfigure it and resell it. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, just converted from one form to another. There's no such thing as trash. All of this stuff is valuable. We need 3 engineers working independently or together. I don't care. The philosopher or the innovation department can make recommendations for the engineers, but I want the engineers to work independently. I want the artists to work independently.
Number 26. Artist.
I want to have more artists on site. You know, people looking at this trash, thinking just like the engineers, but the other side of the coin. Not thinking so much about its usefulness or logic at all. Just taking these forms and converting them into forms that look better. Not only for our interior, but for the exterior. We're going to be selling things. We're going to be selling structural art and paintings.
27. Artist.
You know, when we interview the artist, you can just tell the interview is going to be very easy. We're just going to have a pile of crap in front of them, and we're just going to be like, all right, make something out of this. And if they think they can't do it, then maybe they should be an accountant.
Number 28. Biohazard manager.
Hey, there's going to be needles and diapers and really disgusting things coming in this trash. And once things get complicated and we have a lot of trash coming in, we're going to have to, and especially if we're dealing with human waste, we're going to have a dedicated person who has a biohazard suit. And we're going to have to train this person, you know, and that's going to be part of the staffing agency model. You know, we bring in somebody off the street and we train them to be a biohazard tech, you know. But to keep this thing clean, when we get new trash coming in, we should have the biohazard manager check it out first, get rid of all the needles, get rid of all the, you know, baby diapers and stuff. The biohazard manager will work with the chemist and maybe even the engineers to come up with sustainable solutions that would not only help us deal with biological waste, but would help the world deal with biological waste.
29. Security.
At this point, we're up to 29 employees, and it's growing fast. We need to have a person at the door, at the front gate, making sure nobody comes in. This person has to check everybody's ID when they come in and click the button or give them the device, whatever it is we use to track people. The security has to work with the IT tech and the AV staff. The AV staff and the IT techs have to empower and supply the front security manager with the power to know everything. And there's a feedback loop there because the security manager will also let everyone else know everything if they have to. Number 30, sorting. The supply manager and the janitor are going to love to have a sorting person on staff now, because now there's a dedicated person to look through the trash and to try to pre-sort it for the engineers and the artists. If hypothetically this person actually comes up with a system and there's bins for everything and everything is sorted perfectly, then the supply manager can keep track of that system and help that person because they're going to have a lot of duties. Dedicated sorting person.
Number 31, sorting.
Yeah, we're actually going to need more than one sorting person. There's going to be a lot of trash coming in. We need somebody separating the glass from the plastic and the plastic from the wood. And we got to be separating the metals from the cardboard. A zero waste facility in Japan, I forget the name of the city, but they separate trash into like almost 100 categories. It's amazing. As we scale up to 70, 80 employees, who knows how much trash a town needs to go through. We're looking at subcategories of existing roles and extra support for existing roles. There's really only 13, 15 roles. I want to talk about the floors, the stages. Up top, the highest floor is what we call the philosophy factory. It's where the philosophers and innovators and public speakers, the brain, the heart, the spirit of this system, they're going to figure out what it is we're not looking at. They're going to think beyond marketing. Level 3. Level 3 is where we'll put the AV staff and the finance, the engineers, no, not the engineers, the sales staff, the accountants, the IT tech. Level 2 is all for the artists and engineers. I want them to have a whole floor to themselves, a huge workspace, big landscape to play with. It's going to seem like a waste of space at first, but eventually, as they make stuff, we're going to have this thing like filled like a warehouse of cool stuff that they made that the salespeople have to try to keep up with. On the bottom floor, that's where we got everybody else. The chemist is going to have their own office down there. Biohazard. The supply manager has an office. We're going to have a few trucks for collecting the trash. And then we're going to have this general sorting staff. People who just think that they have no skills or whatever, but we're going to give them work to do. And we're going to try to get them better jobs. The level 1 staff does not need to see level 2. The artists and engineers will come down and look at the supply and take whatever they need. The level 2 and 3 staff doesn't even need to know about level 3. The artists and engineers don't need to be conscious of the marketing or the advertising or the sales or the finance, the accounting, the legal stuff. They just need to create. Level 3 staff does not need to be conscious to the level 4 staff. The vision, the brains, the leadership of what road we're supposed to be on. I don't want the level 3 staff thinking about that. They have a job to do and they're going to do it. It's going to be very straightforward. The AV staff, the IT staff, the sales, the accounting, the staffing agency. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Level 4, then we'll need to know that the janitor is the one who's behind all of this, because that janitor is me.